Matt, do you want to pop over to the National Association of Realtors Migration Trends? The Freddie Mac piece is really great, and I encourage everyone to keep we just covered the basics. Again, subscribe to the newsletter at greatcapitalllc.com. You're going to be hooked up with all these articles and so much more. Migration trends, where people moving around. We're talking about household formation, population growth or decline, depending on which direction you're headed. And I believe this report, it's going to combine a couple of the different, reports, U-Haul, United Van Lines, all those folks are getting metrics of how many people are moving, where are they moving? And here's the list, top 20 states with largest net migration. I see some familiar names and a couple in the middle of the pack, Matt, some Midwestern markets that could be interesting.
Florida and Texas, clear leaders. They've got 372 and 315,000 respectively for largest net migration. And then it falls off to 126,000 something for North Carolina. And then you get South Carolina, Georgia, Tennessee, etc.
So everyone from New York's moving to Florida. Yeah. Everyone from California is moving to Texas.
Yeah.
North Carolina also thrown in the mix.
And they're building a lot of apartments there too. But what surprisingly, you also see a Midwest presence. You got Ohio at, I think that's number 10, Indiana at 11, Wisconsin at 15, Missouri at 17.
I throw Arkansas, even though it's, technically in the South, but, it's kind of
Kentucky there too. Yeah. Why not?
Yeah.
Missouri's just as south as Kentucky.
Middle, kind of, middle America.
Yeah. And I would argue a big part of this, and there's evidence to back it up in this NAR report here, is they are moving because of price. Now, the biggest reason was get back with friends and family. I think that there's a strong narrative here of like maybe moving back to where you were from, but back to your hometown. But 30% moved for family and friends, 21% moved for money, more home for the money. Regionally, really, it is the Sunbelt. 46% of respondents' clients move to the South, 25% move to the West, 18 to the Midwest, 11 to the Northeast. Generally, people moved to from one suburb to another suburb. But if you're talking about people moving to different areas, the biggest movement was from like kind of central urban areas to a suburban area. And they moved, and some of them moving to resort areas to a suburban area as well. I don't know what.
And is that just counter pandemic trends?
I think so too.
Finally,
that does seem like very stark. Like, you moved to where there was mountains and maybe a seashore, and now you're moving back to your family.
I mean, it surprises us, Matt, because we've been in the office since 2020. We opened an office during the pandemic, as opposed to started working from home. Mm-hmm. But a lot of companies are still they're just now coming back to the office.
Yeah.
I mean,
weird. Well, Elon's bringing them all back in the government, right? Is that one of the things? One of his tactics?
Well, that's what I've heard said that in order to reduce the government workforce, instead of firing, you just need to require them to come into the office. Half of them will quit.
People were like, "What? No, you could work just no. It's not that. He's trying to get excuses to get rid of them."
Yeah.
We'll see.
We'll see how effective that is.
But so secondary reasons. So why they move? Number one, family. Number two, affordability. And then lower, more favorable taxes, less crime, being closer to the work location. But really, it's all about getting more house for your money, especially if you're talking about
back. It's interesting. Yeah, people are coming back to the Midwest, which I guess I've done myself. Mm-hmm. I know a lot of people who I moved to and lived in New York for a couple of years, and Florida for half a year, and then back to Indianapolis. I know a lot of people, you go up to, you graduate, you go up to Chicago, and, you get a nice big job, and you live in the city, and then you come back from Chicago, and you're like, this is way, way more affordable, and pretty nice. And
well, but then you also have to be a little bit arrogant when you're coming back home. You got to be like,
well,
in Chicago.
Oh, well, yeah, exactly. This is the way we had it.
Yeah, that's right.
We would at the rooftop bar every,
you don't have
Thursday.
That here? You don't have that here?
With Molinati's.
That's great. That's funny.
We've got all that too now.
But I think that there is affordability, still a huge component. It's interesting to see this social component to moving.
Closer to family and friends. What's really important?
but more home for the money and lower, more favorable taxes. That's a big deal.
I mean, is this not like this is a Sun Belt and the Midwest thing? But this is again, and it shows up in the numbers.
Yeah,
this is very favorable to Sun Belt and Midwest trends.
Yeah, and it's also kind of worth noting, like 300,000 into an entire state, like 300,000 in the state of Texas. The Texas population's millions and millions. So we're not talking about a huge movement. Again, you can build out of this. For a lot of the, especially like for a specific market, like that's the whole thesis of this Sun Belt building. And they have overbuilt, even though there are so many people moving in. So it's not, so the migration is a huge story, but it's not the biggest story. I think the biggest story is still apartment supply.
Yeah, agreed. 100%.
Wow, they've got cultural groups in new area. That's one reason. 1% of people move.
Yeah, that makes sense
for that reason. 2% in the Northeast.
Yeah, it's interesting that 1% move to the Midwest for diversity.
Yeah,
the Midwest isn't always known as the most diverse place, but we've got our pocket. We got all kinds of
1% move for better weather conditions.
Honestly, to me, I would think that would be higher than 1%.
Yeah.
Or 4%. Yeah, that's just 1% thought the Midwest will have better conditions. Interesting. Yeah, it makes more sense. People are moving to the West or the South for weather, but still, what's really important? It's your family and friends, and then it's money.
Yeah, I actually really striking here is closer to work location is not up. I would think it'd be.
It's number 3. Yeah.
But support.
I think that these are the primary reasons. I think that it's they're hitting a couple birds with one stone.
Yeah.
So fascinating. Again, I read this whole piece. This is interesting. I think this is again paints a bullish message. And thesis for suburban investments, as well as for select Midwestern markets, and keeping an eye on the Sun Belt for deep discounted deals. You're going to see a lot more supply coming online, but again, the long term prospects. If you take a long term approach anywhere in the multifamily market, that's always the best approach to take. Yeah. But long term approach in the Sun Belt, I think, will pay off. Very much over the next decade. Long-term approach in the Midwest, I think, same thing, but you may just get a little bit more growth in the midterm.